Good morning, Floss Tube. It's Julie with Reflections Framing and Stitching. Today is Saturday. It is the 5th of February, and this is Chart of the Week video number 124. That's a lot of videos. So, I'm back again. Welcome. How are you today? I'm doing well. The sun is shining again. We've had no snow or rain or any moisture of any kind, so it's dry as a bone out there. The winds are supposed to be blowing this weekend, and so we have a fire warning. But you know, it's hard to be sad or upset or anything when the sun is shining like it is. I mean, I'll take it. Let's see. How was your week? Anything new or exciting happen? I think I told you last week in last week's video that Dan and I were planning to go to the Platte Valley Antique Mall. And we did. We made it out there. It was pretty crowded. And Dan and I were the only ones wearing a mask. But, you know, I better safe than sorry, I always feel. So we did our thing. I found a couple of things I was looking for and something that I wasn't looking for, which was an antique sampler. And I did buy her. So I didn't get much stitching in this week because I was busy charting her. And there's no name or anything on it. It was very poorly framed. It's very simple. But I couldn't leave her there because she was literally starting to disintegrate before my eyes. So I wanted to get her home, get her charted before anything else disappeared, and frame her up using acid-free products instead of gold foil cardboard, and try and at least save a little bit of her. But again, there was no initials, no date, no nothing. So I have nothing except for the fact that she's old. Like in one spot that you could see where the holes were for the stitches, because it was eyelet stitches. And there was just a little bit of the thread left, but all you had to do was blow and it was gone. So kind of had to guess on what color that one was. But she's all charted. I did get her all charted, and I have the colors all chosen. So I feel good about that. And then, hold on, the mailman's going to be coming in, and I'll be right back. And then the other thing that kept me busy this week was back in, I guess it was maybe 2014, I had designed a chart for our spring retreat, and shortly after that, the computer it was charted on died, and so I didn't have any of that chart. But the piece is still on display here in the shop, and I always get requests for it. So I decided this week, since I was charting, I would just go ahead and get that one charted from the picture, you know, from the actual piece, so that I can have that available for people too. So that's what I did this week. We went to the antique store. I worked on charting. I did a little bit of stitching. That was about it. We did go to Reese's birthday party on Sunday. Basically, Dan partied with the kids, and the rest of us just kind of sat around and talked. So when Dan's around, the kids don't really want anything to do with anyone else. So they all played, and we visited and had pizza and cake and came home. So let's get started on this week. We'll start with last week's question of the week, which was favorite bunny chart. Some of you did not have a favorite bunny chart because you're not overly fond of bunnies, but some of you played along anyway, and I appreciate that greatly. I would say overall, the Easter Parade. There were several that were mentioned more than once. Easter Parade from Blackbird Designs. The new Jackrabbit one from Cottage Garden with the ears. We had an interesting conversation about those ears at Zoom last weekend, because it was you know, those ears. I mean, they're big, but when you go and actually Google pictures of a jackrabbit, that's exactly what they look like. So in the end, those of us who were on the fence about those ears decided that they were completely appropriate. And then Rodney and Rebecca were very popular. So some of you have stitched them already, and some of you might stitch them. They're on your list anyway. You've taken notice. Let's say that. So great responses. I appreciate it greatly. I did have 76 comments on this past week's video, which was one more than the week before. So upward. That's great. And I do appreciate you all taking the time to comment, because I know everyone's busy and there's a million videos out there that you're watching, and it's very much appreciated that you take the time to comment on mine. I did have a couple of questions. Let me grab my piece of paper so I get the names right. Stitchaholic asked, she commented on my new intro and asked what software I used for it. I used Canva, C-A-N-V-A. It's free. I mean, you can do an upgraded version. I just used the free version. The upgraded one gives you a lot more options, but I did fine with just the free stuff. So if you're interested in doing something like that, it's pretty easy to use. If I can figure it out, it has to be pretty easy to use. So Canva. I'll put that in the notes section for you in case you want to go there. Rain Jude, I think is what I wrote down here. She wanted to know if the Stardust Aida that I showed comes in Lugana or linen, and is it as pretty as what the Aida was. I've never seen it in Lugana, but I do have some in linen, and yes, it is just as pretty as the Aida. Cassie Jo Stitches, she wanted to know what I guess two people wanted to know what my favorite silk, and Lori Yu wanted to know what my favorite silk is. Unfortunately, my favorite silk is no longer being produced. It was Carrie's Creation Silks. I haven't found one that I like as well. Most of the silks that are overdyed are of the fuzzier variety, so like Belle Soie or Dinky Dyes, Karen Water Lilies. They're a fuzzier. They have a fuzzier look to them. Doesn't mean they're bad or anything. It just they have a fuzzier look to them. And then, like, I prefer the thinner, smoother look, which would be like NPI or Vera Soie, and those aren't overdyed. So I like to have slight variation. I don't like my silks to have, go from purple to red, but slight variations of purple or slight variations of red. I like that look, and I haven't found a silk yet that I like as much as I liked Carrie's. So if I had to choose a silk right now, it would be either a Vera Soie or NPI, because they have the smoother look to them. I love the colors of Dinky Dyes or Belle Soie or Karen. I just don't like the fuzziness of them. Kim, the stay-at-home quilter, commented that I enabled her this past week, and I just wanted to say thank you. I enjoy enabling people, so anytime I can help, I'm your girl. I will enable you. And then I lost my train of thought. That was all the questions or comments that I had that I wanted to point out. But I do appreciate, again, everyone commenting, asking questions. I looked up some of the rabbits that I wasn't familiar with, and I'm glad you all enjoyed last week's video. So let us start with this week's video. In the comments from last week, there were quite a few people I noticed that either had quilting in their name or mentioned that they were going to be quilting last weekend. So I thought maybe we would combine cross-stitch and quilting this weekend. So I chose one of my favorite little house designs, which is called Orchard Valley Quilting Bee. And this is what it looks like. This is an older chart. It's not new. I think it says copyright 2013. So it's not a new design. But some of you may not be familiar with it. But I've always liked this particular design. It calls for all DMC. A couple of the colors you'll need 2 of. If you're stitching on the 28 count vintage Buttercream linen from Lakeside, like it calls for. If you're doing like a 36 or 40, you probably wouldn't need that. Let's see. What else do I need? There's quite a few colors. And at the time she charted this one, she said this design was probably the most fun she's ever had when designing it. So you might want to give it a little consideration. So I have a little bit of vintage Buttercream in a 32 count. I don't think I have a big enough piece to stitch that on, but I wanted to at least show you the color. I do have options though. So here's the colors. Let me grab I did remember a piece of white, so you get a better idea. So there is all the colors called for. There's quite a few of them. They're pretty colors. And this, let's see if I can open it up wider. It's a vintage Buttercream is a yellowy fabric. Sorry, I'm still struggling. Someday it's going to go away. But that's the vintage Buttercream. And like I said, I don't have a lot of it. This is probably the largest piece I have. Everything else is smaller cuts, but I wanted to at least show you what the called for color was. If that doesn't work for you, or if you can't locate that, because I know that Pat's fabrics are a little hard to find sometimes, I have a 40 count light Examplar. It's also a Lakeside linen. It's very, very similar to the Buttercream, slightly less yellow. I need a third hand. Can you give me a third hand? How's that look? Now, I don't see anything wrong with these colors. I just don't know that they're my favorite for this piece. They're fine. Everything goes. Everything shows up. It's pretty. If you're an Aida stitcher, Parchment would be a good option. This happens to be 16 count parchment. And it has that yellowy tone like the other two I've shown you. But you know me, I like a little bit darker. So I have, for your consideration, I have 36 count Hogbristle, which is a fox and rabbit fabric. It's got more of a green tinge. I enjoy green. I don't know about the rest of you, but I enjoy green, and so I don't mind it on there. What do you think? Everything shows up fine. I think it makes the colors a little richer looking, in my opinion. You might disagree, but one of my favorite options, and this one would require probably switching a couple of colors, and I'll talk about that here in just a second. But one of my favorite options is Boston. This is a 36 count Boston from Seraphim. I just learned this week that Boston doesn't come in every count, something about the base fabric. So I don't think it comes in, what'd she say? I tried to order it in Aida and Lugana, and I don't think you can get it in Aida or Lugana. I think it's only comes in linen. But anyway, I really like the colors on this. It's a grayish blue, more gray than blue, but it has some blue in it. Go up close, come back farther, but these two colors right here might not show up because you're using only one strand on 36 count. Those two colors are in these two houses, and the gray hair in Granny here. So if it were me and I wanted to stitch it on this color, I would probably switch those two, which I'll give you the numbers what they are. They are 3023 and 3022, and I would probably switch them to more of a brown tone. So 642 and 640, I think, would be what I would use. And then I think they would show up just fine. And I'll show you that. See, those are the two extra that I would, and those show up just fine. Now, because this doesn't come in an Aida, if you like that look, there is a color called Mystic Gray, which again, it's not really gray. To me, it looks blue. But the colors all look good on there, and on this particular color you do not have to substitute those two. So everything would show up on this and be pretty. Just depends on your tastes and what you like. But I think that would be very pretty. And again, that's an 18 count Mystic Gray. And the last option I have for you is just a gray. It's a 30 count. It's called Parisian Gray. It's a legacy linen. And you might have to substitute these again for the browner choices. But I think that would look good too. So what do you think? Have you seen that chart before? Have you stitched that chart before? It's in my stash. I haven't stitched it yet. I wonder why I haven't, because I do enjoy it. And I hope you did too. So your question of the week for this week is, do you quilt? Have you quilted? Would you like to quilt? I have in the past, I have quilted. I have made several quilts. I found quilting to be very stressful. I'm not going to lie. Having to get all those points nice and sharp, and I can't sew a straight seam to save my sole, which is very important in quilting. And I even tried paper piecing, because then you stitch right on the line that's already on the paper, which, you know, should mean you can stitch straight because the line is straight, but I have a tendency to wander. The last quilt that I made, and I may have told this story, but I'll share it with you anyway. So the last quilt I made, it was to be a gift for my in-laws for Christmas. And it was a paper piecing quilt. It was queen size. It was in real pretty greens and creams. And I was taking the strips. You know, first you make the squares, and then you put squares together and make strips, and then you sew the strips together. So I was taking the strips and putting them underneath the sofa so that the dogs weren't walking all over them. And then I forgot that I had put them underneath the sofa. And I was vacuuming, and I stuck the vacuum underneath the sofa to get, you know, the dust bunnies out from underneath there, and sucked them up in the vacuum cleaner, and it just shredded those pieces like no other. Like, I had to start the quilt over, trying to find the fabric, because it didn't shred all of them, but it shredded enough that I wasn't going to have a queen-size quilt. So I had to track down more fabric, because, of course, I didn't have any extra. And managed to do that, managed to get it done, gave it to him for Christmas, and I think it's been stuck in a closet somewhere since then. So that was the very last quilt I ever did, because it just stressed me out so bad. Someday, maybe when I retire, maybe I'll try again, because I do see the beautiful quilts that, like, Cornhusker State Stitchers show, and it makes me want to quilt again. But oy vey, I don't know. I don't know. So anyway, question. Have you quilted? Do you quilt? Would you like to learn to quilt? Yeah, inquiring minds want to know. Let's see. What am I going to do this weekend? Well, my plan is to go home today and box up all the Christmas stuff. I told you before that I took it all down, but it's been in the library, and we've been busy the last 2 weekends. So my plan is to go home. I told Dan to bring all the containers up from the basement, and we would be putting that away after work today. So fingers crossed that we get that done, because it needs to be put away. It's well past Christmas. I think this is the latest that I have ever had Christmas stuff sitting around. So I want to get that done. And then tomorrow, I don't have any set in stone plans. I would still like to get to the, it's not the brass armadillo. It's the one in Lincoln. It's another animal name, possum or something. I can't remember. It's another antique store. I would kind of like to get there. I'm still looking for a couple more things for the bedroom. So I would kind of like to go there. But I also kind of want to clean the house, which I could do on Monday, because the only thing I have going on Monday is a haircut. I'm finally, thank God, going to get a haircut. My stylist changed her mind and decided to quit doing Mondays again. So I need to find a new stylist. So I'm going to, Connie recommended hers, so I'm going to go to Connie's and give her a chance, and we'll see how it comes out. But it's getting too long, and I get that sausage roll back there, and so I'm looking forward to the haircut. So I could clean before and after that if I needed to. Anyway, that's what and then some stitching. I'm going to be finishing probably tonight the third one of the Jelly Bean Jubilee chart. I did the one with the rabbit sitting on the Easter egg. So that one I should get done sometime this evening during Zoom. And then I haven't decided if I'll stitch a fourth one, because if I stitch a fourth one, then I got to stitch a fifth one. Or if I'll maybe start stitching that sampler I just charted. I don't know. There'll be some stitching involved this weekend, but other than that, those are my plans. I was looking at my kitchen this week and thinking it's time for a refresh on the paint color, but I'm trying to talk myself out of that. So I don't think we'll be painting. I think we'll have enough to do with putting the Christmas stuff away. So anyway, I would love it if you would share your plans for the weekend, what you're going to stitch. Let me know about the question of the week, and I hope all of you have a wonderful week with lots of stitchy time, and I will see you next. I did want to mention I have started putting sneak peeks from Market on the website, so you can check that out if you're interested in pre-ordering anything. They're coming out few at a time. I'm seeing a few every day, so I'm putting them on as I see them. I am not putting, unless they have the actual name of the chart, I'm not putting the little tiny sneak peeks on yet, because I know they're going to release larger sneak peeks, and I'll be getting emails from the designers with all the information, and it would just be duplicating stuff if I started doing that. So if the designer has put a name with the chart, then I'm putting it on there. But the little tiny sneak peeks with no name, I'm not going to do yet. And I know Teresa Kogut has released some pictures that aren't on there. Hers are in a book, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to get them on there, because they're not individual charts. Hers are, I think she's releasing 5 books with multiple charts in them. So I'm trying to figure out the best way, because I don't know which chart is in which book. Trying to figure out the best way to do that. So, but she's got some really cute ones. So anyway, have a great week. Get some stitching done, and I will see you next Saturday. Take care. Bye.